The United States is a big country, and that means there's a lot of fun geography facts all about it. But to go along with those fun facts are a ton of misconceptions, half-truths, and outright lies that we've been told about the geography of the United States. So here are 20 of my favorite geography myths about the US and the truth behind them. And be sure to stay until number 20 because it is by far the biggest and most common misconception about the geography of the United States that I've ever heard. It's Canada, the Great White North. And because of this, from anywhere in the United States, you go north to get there, right? Actually, no. For one, if you drive from Alaska into Canada, you're heading east, not north. But more curious is that even in the lower 48, Canada is not always north, especially if you live in Detroit. Due to a bend in the Detroit River, which forms the international border, the Canadian city of Windsor is located almost directly south of the American city. To cross the border via the Ambassador Bridge or the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel, you must travel south. So, in some ways, Canada is also the Great White South. Key West, Florida proudly boasts the southernmost point in the United States, a claim that helps cement the state's sunny, tropical image in our minds. While this is true for the contiguous 48 states, when all 50 states are considered, Hawaii is much farther south. In fact, the southernmost point in the 50 states is actually Kele, on the Big Island of Hawaii, which sits almost 1,000 miles further south than Key West. But even this is a half-truth, because if we look at all of the United States territories as well, the actual southernmost point in the United States is the Rose Atoll, a tiny, uninhabited piece of land that's technically part of American Samoa. Just remember, territories are part of the US too. The Rockies are towering, sharp, and dramatic, the very picture of what a mountain range should be, and their jagged peaks give them an appearance of ancient power, leading many to believe that they're the country's oldest mountains. But this is a misconception because their dramatic appearance is really a sign of youth. In fact, the Rocky Mountains are merely geologic teenagers, having formed between 55 and 80 million years ago. The truly ancient range in the United States is the Appalachians, which formed over 480 million years ago. These peaks were once as high and sharp as the Rockies, but hundreds of millions of years of erosion have worn them down into the gentle, rounded mountains we see today. In many ways, mountains are like us. They get rounder and less defined over time. For residents of New York City, upstate is often used as a casual term for anywhere north of the city's immediate suburbs, like Westchester County. This perception has seeped into the national consciousness. However, for the millions of people who actually live in the vast remainder of New York State, this definition is incorrect and often irritating. While upstate New York can include the cities of Buffalo, Rochester, and Albany, and their surrounding regions, these places are also part of their own distinct regions, different and separate from each other. In fact, true upstate New York would largely be the area that we know today as the Adirondack Mountains. Whatever you do though, do not assume that New York City is the same as New York State. Take a quick mental map of the US West Coast, and I'm sure California is the first place you thought of. Because of this, we typically align our brains in a way that perceives Los Angeles as being the city that is the farthest west in the contiguous United States. But what if I said that it wasn't anywhere close? In fact, of all major cities in the West Coast states, it would be Portland, Oregon that would be the farthest west, farther than San Diego, Los Angeles, Seattle, and even San Francisco, even if only slightly. For its part, Los Angeles is much farther east than many people realize too, with even Reno, Nevada being more westerly. This is a fantastic piece of geography trivia that can highlight how our mental maps fail us. And that feeling of discovering something isn't what you thought it was isn't just limited to geography. In our own lives, there's a different kind of discovery that can feel frustrating. The money quietly leaving our bank accounts for subscriptions we don't even use. It's a slow, constant tax on our finances. And managing that drain is exactly why I want to tell you about this video's sponsor, Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that acts as your financial control center. After you set up your account, it will immediately find and organize all of your recurring subscriptions. And with just a few taps, you can cancel any service you no longer need. But it doesn't stop there. Rocket Money can also help you lower your bills by having their experts negotiate on your behalf, saving you both money and the headache of sitting on hold. In a world where everything feels so much more expensive, taking control of where your money is going is essential, and Rocket Money puts that control right back in your hands. So, stop throwing your money away and go to rocketmoney.com/Geoff or click the link in the description below to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with Premium. There's a general southward trend for many of the country's largest river systems, like the Mississippi or the Columbia, guided by the overall topography of the continent. This leads to an easy assumption that gravity always pulls rivers south, but water flows downhill regardless of cardinal direction. And because of this, a number of significant American rivers flow north, including the St. Johns River in Florida, which flows north for over 300 miles. Similarly, the Red River of the North, forming the border between North Dakota and Minnesota, flows directly north into Canada's Lake Winnipeg. So just remember, south doesn't mean down. These massive bodies of water are so central to the American Midwest that they are often thought of as exclusively American. While they are collectively called the North Coast of the US, 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, Superior, Huron, Erie, and Ontario, are shared with Canada. Only Lake Michigan lies entirely within US borders. This also means that any water use from them is tied up in very complicated and rigid international agreements. Basically, this isn't just America's water to use however it wants. When we think of American deserts like those in Arizona or California, we picture scorching heat and lots of dirt and sand, an image constantly reinforced by movies. But a desert is defined by its lack of precipitation, not its temperature or composition. The largest desert in the United States is the Great Basin Desert, which covers most of Nevada and parts of Utah, Idaho, and Oregon. And this desert is a cold desert, characterized by cold winters and sagebrush-covered terrain, not sand dunes. So the next time you're in a desert, be sure to check which one, and then maybe pack a jacket. The word rainforest evokes images of tropical heat, vibrant parrots, and lush equatorial jungles. Based on this, the only logical place to find one in the United States would be Hawaii, or perhaps the territory of Puerto Rico. However, this ignores another major category, temperate rainforests. The Pacific Northwest is home to some of the most spectacular temperate rainforests on Earth. In coastal regions of Oregon, Washington, and Southeast Alaska, heavy rainfall and cool temperatures have created a unique ecosystem of colossal conifers, like Sitka spruce and western hemlock, draped in thick carpets of moss and ferns. In fact, some temperate rainforests have more biomass than anywhere else on the planet. The American ideal is deeply connected to private property and land ownership. From farms in the Midwest to suburban homes and busy urban centers, it's natural to assume that the vast majority of the country is in private hands. While this is true for the eastern half of the country, it is spectacularly false in the West. The federal government owns a staggering 47% of all land in the 11 western states. And in states like Nevada, 80% federally owned, and Utah, 63%, vast swaths are managed by the Bureau of Land Management, the Forest Service, or the National Park Service, making them more public than private. All told, about 40% of all land is either federally or state-owned. And, as an additional fun fact, on Bureau of Land Management land, you can camp just about anywhere. There's a marker in a field near Lebanon, Kansas, that proudly proclaims it is the geographic center of the United States. This was true before 1959, but when Alaska and Hawaii were added to the Union, the center point shifted dramatically. The geographic center of all 50 states is now located in a sparsely populated area near the town of Belle Fourche, South Dakota. This shows you just how far away both Alaska and Hawaii are from the lower 48. This is one of the most common geographic errors. We associate these massive economic and cultural hubs with power and importance, so it feels natural that they would also be the seat of state government as well. The truth is that many states intentionally chose smaller, more centrally located cities as their capital to avoid concentrating all political and commercial power in one place. The capitals of New York, California, and Illinois, for example, are actually Albany, Sacramento, and Springfield respectively. Though there are a few major capital cities, such as Atlanta, Denver, and Phoenix. The mighty Mississippi is iconic and often seen as the central artery of the country. Its length and power are legendary, leading most to believe it is the longest river in the US. While it is a giant, its primary tributary, the Missouri River, is actually longer. Measured from its own headwaters in the Rocky Mountains of Montana, the Missouri River is 2,341 miles long, which is just a single mile longer than the Mississippi. Which makes you think, maybe it should be called the Mighty Missouri instead. Logic suggests that the easternmost point of the country must be on the East Coast. Maine even calls itself the Sunrise State, and places like West Quoddy Head are celebrated as the first place to see the sun rise. While Maine holds the title for the contiguous US, the true easternmost point is in Alaska. The Aleutian Islands arc so far west that they cross the 180th meridian of longitude into the eastern hemisphere. Pokenoy Point, Alaska, sits at a longitude of 179 degrees east, making it technically the easternmost point in the United States. And then after that, it would be Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands before finally reaching Maine. On most maps, these two states appear as neat, four-sided boxes, a testament to the survey grid system used to carve up the West. But the Earth is not flat. Because lines of longitude converge as they approach the North Pole, the northern border of both states is slightly shorter than the southern border. The shapes are technically trapezoids, a subtle consequence of imposing a rectangular grid onto a spherical planet. Also, the survey system wasn't perfect and there are small irregularities. The word swamp conjures up images of stagnant, muddy water and tangled cypress trees. While parts of the Everglades have these features, it is not a swamp. It is, in fact, a massive, incredibly slow-moving river. Known as the River of Grass, it is a sheet of fresh water, often only inches deep, but up to 60 miles wide, flowing slowly from Lake Okeechobee southward to the Florida Bay. Nobody ever said that rivers have to be fast-moving. They just have to move. The image of the Midwest is one of an endless, table-flat expanse of farmland, the breadbasket of the US. This perception is reinforced by long drives on interstate highways through Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, and other states where the horizon can seem impossibly distant and level. While the vast plains are a defining feature, the region contains more dramatic and varied topography than you might think. The Ozark Plateau rises hundreds of feet across southern Missouri. The Black Hills of South Dakota are genuine mountains, and the entire driftless area of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, untouched by the last glaciers, is a rugged landscape of deep river valleys and bluffs. That said though, when compared to the East and West, it is much flatter. From its role in carving the Grand Canyon to its importance in watering the Southwest, the Colorado River is legendary. We picture it as a powerful force of nature that empties into the Gulf of California in Mexico. In reality though, the Colorado River is quite small, with less than 1% of the water of the Mississippi River. And tragically, this water doesn't even make it to the ocean anymore. Due to extensive damming and the diversion of its water for agriculture in cities like Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Los Angeles, the river is so over-allocated that its delta has dried up. For most of the year, the once mighty Colorado River now dwindles to a trickle and disappears into the sand miles before it can reach the ocean. In fact, the Colorado River drains less than the Colorado River of Texas. The term Tornado Alley instantly brings to mind a specific, dangerous corridor through the Great Plains. News media often display maps with this alley clearly shaded in, reinforcing the idea that this is an official designation. In reality, Tornado Alley is a media-coined nickname, not a formal meteorological term. Tornado activity is high in this general area, but there are no sharp boundaries to where the risk ends. Furthermore, this focus often overshadows other incredibly active areas, such as Dixie Alley in the southeast, where tornadoes are often more deadly due to the higher population density and hilly terrain. Also though, tornadoes have occurred in every single state in the country. Alaska is huge, but it's not that huge. This misconception is almost entirely the fault of one thing: the Mercator map projection. To represent a spherical Earth on a flat surface, this common map dramatically distorts landmasses near the poles. Alaska, being far north, gets stretched to an enormous looking size. But on maps where you can show equal area, the real size of Alaska is shown. The reality is that Alaska is very large at 585,000 square miles of land. If you were to place it over the lower 48, it would take up about 1/6 of the contiguous US, which is a little under 3 million square miles. But that's a far cry from the size most people think Alaska actually is. But don't worry, Alaska, size isn't everything. Figuring out fact from fiction is a never-ending battle. But I hope I've dispelled some common misconceptions about the geography of the United States today. Because it's not geography if we can't discern what's real and what isn't. This week is my final week in the Baltics, where I'm off to explore the countryside of Lithuania by bike. So come join me over on my travel channel. I hope you enjoyed learning all about the geographic myths of the United States. If you did, be sure to check out this video all about 15 geography facts about Canada. Thanks for watching. See you next time.